Before Elon Musk became the richest man alive, he made his very first money at just 12 years old. While most kids were playing video games, Elon was building one. A space shooter game called Blaster. It wasn't fancy, just black and white code on an old computer, but it worked. And instead of just keeping it for himself, Elon sold the game's code to a magazine for $500. Imagine that, $500 at 12 years old from a video game he built. It wasn't riches yet, but it was the spark that started his billionaire journey. From $500 to billions, this was only the beginning.
Part 1. Roots of a Dreamer. Elon Musk's early life in South Africa. The story of Elon Musk doesn't begin in Silicon Valley or on the launch pad of a SpaceX rocket, or even in the futuristic halls of Tesla's factories. It begins far away in a country defined by both breathtaking beauty and brutal division, apartheid-era South Africa. Here in the city of Pretoria, a boy was born on June 28, 1971, who would one day dream bigger than continents, bigger than Earth itself. From the start, Elon's childhood was anything but ordinary. His father, Elon Musk, was a South African engineer. Brilliant, but by Elon's later accounts, complicated and difficult. His mother, May Musk, a Canadian-born model and dietitian, embodied resilience, juggling multiple jobs to support her children. This fractured environment created a young boy who was both deeply introspective and fiercely independent. Elon was not the typical child who played outside in the sun with friends. Instead, he was glued to books. Science fiction novels, encyclopedias, fantasy adventures, he devoured them with an obsession that worried even his parents. He could read for 10 hours straight, living in worlds of spaceships, galaxies, and ideas so far ahead that classmates could barely keep up. He wasn't just reading stories. He was shaping the foundations of his imagination. But that imagination came at a price. At school, Elon was relentlessly bullied. He was small, quiet, and lost in his own world, the perfect target. The bullying wasn't harmless teasing, it was brutal. Once, a group of boys beat him so badly he was hospitalized. His nose was broken, his body battered. The physical scars healed, but the emotional ones carved a deeper lesson. The world could be harsh, merciless, and unforgiving. To survive, Elon would have to endure. In this storm of struggle, however, another side of Elon began to emerge. His genius with technology. By age 10, he had discovered the world of computers. His parents had bought him a Commodore VIC-20, an early home computer with just 5 kilobytes of memory. Most children would have seen it as a toy. Elon saw it as a universe. Within days, he was programming. Within weeks, he had taught himself to code. By 12 years old, Elon had created his first video game, a simple space shooter called Blaster. When he sold it to a computer magazine for $500, it wasn't just a child's side hustle. It was proof. Proof that ideas, when fueled by obsession and skill, could generate real value. And yet, even with this early spark, his path was far from certain. South Africa in the late 1980s was a place of turmoil, suffocating under apartheid. For Elon, who despised injustice and yearned for a wider horizon, staying was not an option. He had a vision of America, the land where technology, innovation, and dreams seemed limitless. But escaping South Africa was no simple task. At 17, Elon made the first of many bold gambles that would define his life. With little more than determination and a burning need to chase his vision, he left home. He obtained Canadian citizenship through his mother's side and flew to Canada, alone with barely enough money to survive. He worked odd jobs just to get by, cleaning boilers, cutting wood, and struggling to make rent. But behind every hard shift, there was a fire inside him. Canada was just a stepping stone. The real destination was the United States, the place where the future was being written. And so, in this first chapter of Elon Musk's journey, the foundation was laid. A boy who had been bullied, dismissed, and underestimated was quietly sharpening his mind, coding his future, and dreaming of worlds far beyond Earth. He was leaving behind not just a country, but an entire life. Ahead of him lay America, and with it, the chance to transform desperation into destiny. This wasn't yet the Elon Musk we know today, the billionaire, the icon, the man who defied industries. This was simply Elon, a dreamer with no money, no connections, and no safety net. But already the world was beginning to bend ever so slightly toward the gravity of his imagination. Part 2. Struggle in a New Land. From penniless immigrant to relentless dreamer. When Elon Musk stepped off the plane in Canada at 17, he wasn't arriving as the Elon Musk the world knows today. He was just a skinny teenager, broke, carrying little more than a backpack, a Canadian passport through his mother, and a burning desire to escape South Africa's turbulence. America was still the dream, but Canada was the door he had to pry open first. Reality, however, was harsh. There was no safety net waiting for him, no wealthy relatives offering a bed, no cushy path paved by privilege. Instead, Musk slept on couches, stayed in youth hostels, and took whatever work he could find. He shoveled grain in brutal cold, cut logs for timber, and even cleaned boilers in a sawmill, crawling into dark, suffocating spaces where heat and toxic residue could make a man pass out. These weren't jobs of prestige. They were jobs of survival. And yet, every day he endured was another step closer to his dream. Elon knew one truth. Knowledge was his ticket forward. He enrolled at Queen's University in Ontario in 1989. For Musk, university wasn't just about getting a degree, it was his gateway to America. Canada gave him proximity, but the U.S. was where innovation and technology were rewriting the future. That's where he wanted to be, no matter the cost. At Queen's, Elon stood out. He wasn't the most polished student socially, but his relentless drive was unmistakable. He absorbed knowledge in economics and physics with the same hunger he once devoured science fiction books as a boy. He asked questions that others found strange, questions about colonizing Mars, about building electric cars, about transforming the internet before most people even understood what it was. To his peers, he seemed eccentric, even otherworldly. But to Elon, these weren't fantasies. They were blueprints. 2 years later, Elon made his move. In 1992, he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, finally setting foot in the United States, the land of his dreams. He pursued a double major in economics and physics, believing that the two together were the perfect foundation for changing the world. Physics gave him the understanding of how the universe worked. Economics gave him the tools to navigate and shape society within it. But beneath the academic brilliance, Elon's financial reality was stark. Tuition was expensive. Rent was crushing. Food was a luxury, so Musk hustled. He and a roommate rented a 10-bedroom house off campus, not for themselves, but to turn into a makeshift nightclub. Every weekend, they charged students for entry and packed hundreds of people into their house parties. Elon wasn't much of a partygoer himself, but he knew one thing. The revenue kept him afloat. It was just another survival hack in the long road forward. Even then, Elon's appetite for risk was clear. While other students were satisfied with routine, Musk was dreaming at scales that bordered on madness. He often told friends that he had 3 missions in life: to make sustainable energy mainstream, to connect humanity through the internet, to make life multiplanetary. At the time, these ideas sounded absurd. The early 1990s were a world where dial-up internet screeched like static, where electric cars were dead experiments of the past, and where space was a domain reserved for governments, not dreamers. Yet Musk was already sketching the outlines of what would one day become PayPal, Tesla, and SpaceX. After completing his degrees at Penn, Elon wasn't done. He pursued a PhD in applied physics at Stanford University in California. But here came one of the most dramatic decisions of his life, and it happened in just 2 days. The year was 1995. The internet revolution was beginning to explode. The dot-com boom was igniting, and Silicon Valley was buzzing with opportunity. Musk realized that if he stayed in academia, he might miss the most transformative wave in modern history. He had a choice: continue toward a doctorate or dive headfirst into the unknown world of internet startups. 2 days into Stanford, Elon walked away. To most, it was insanity, abandoning one of the most prestigious programs in the world with no job, no money, and no guarantee of success. But to Musk, it wasn't insanity. It was clarity. He believed that the internet would reshape humanity, and he refused to watch from the sidelines. And so Elon Musk, the student, became Elon Musk, the entrepreneur. Broke, sleeping on office floors, showering at the YMCA, and eating cheap food, he prepared to launch his first company. The world didn't know it yet, but the spark had been lit. From that point forward, Musk would stop at nothing to transform his impossible visions into reality. In this chapter, Elon Musk didn't become rich, and he didn't become famous. He became something far more dangerous to the status quo: relentlessly committed. An immigrant who had clawed his way through poverty, sacrifice, and ridicule now stood at the edge of the internet revolution, ready to leap into a storm that would either destroy him or make him unstoppable. This wasn't the rise. This was the ignition. Part 3. Fire in Silicon Valley: Battles, Betrayal, and Breakthrough. When Elon Musk dropped out of Stanford in 1995, he wasn't walking into comfort. He was stepping into chaos. The internet was exploding. Venture capital was chasing wild dreams, and Silicon Valley was a battlefield of ambition. Musk had no safety net, no inheritance, no guarantee. But he had one priceless weapon: an unstoppable drive to build. With his brother Kimball Musk, Elon launched his first startup, Zip2. The idea was simple but radical for its time: an online business directory with maps, a digital version of the Yellow Pages fused with navigation, designed to help newspapers leap into the online world. In 1995, most people still relied on paper directories. Many didn't even grasp what the internet was. But Musk saw it before others. The early days were brutal. Zip2 didn't have a glamorous office or fancy resources. Instead, the Musk brothers worked out of a tiny space, sleeping on beanbags, showering at the YMCA, and coding day and night. Elon would sometimes stay awake for 48 hours straight, hammering at his keyboard, fueled by cheap meals and sheer adrenaline. They couldn't afford an apartment, let alone employees. Every cent went into keeping the servers running. At first, newspapers dismissed them. Some laughed. Others slammed doors in their faces. The internet? That'll never replace print, they scoffed. But slowly, cracks in the old world appeared. The Musk brothers landed small contracts, then bigger ones. Eventually, they struck deals with major newspapers like the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune. Suddenly, Zip2 wasn't just a scrappy startup. It was a rising star. In 1999, after 4 years of struggle, Compaq acquired Zip2 for $307 million in cash. Elon's share? $22 million. For a boy who once scrubbed boilers for survival, it was a life-changing moment. At 27 years old, Elon Musk was officially a multi-millionaire. But money didn't slow him down. It only intensified the fire. While many would have retired young or basked in their first fortune, Musk was already restless. He wanted more than wealth. He wanted impact. That same year, he launched his second company, X.com. X.com was born out of Elon's obsession with the future of money. Banks, he believed, were archaic, slow, and ripe for disruption. Why should people rely on paper checks or wait days for transfers when digital payments could be instant? Musk envisioned a world where money moved as seamlessly as email. But building that future wasn't easy. The financial industry was rigid, filled with regulations, and controlled by institutions that didn't want outsiders invading their turf. Musk poured much of his Zip2 fortune into X.com, betting almost everything again. The risk was staggering. One wrong move could wipe him out. The gamble, however, paid off. X.com grew rapidly. offering services nobody had dared attempt. Customers could send money online, deposit checks digitally, and manage their finances in ways that felt futuristic. But with success came conflict. Within a year, XCOM merged with a competitor called Confinity, co-founded by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin. Confinity had created a money transfer service called PayPal. Together, they had a product that could revolutionize online payments. The merged company kept the PayPal brand. And yet, behind the scenes, war was brewing. Musk envisioned PayPal becoming more than just a payment service. He wanted it to evolve into a full-scale online bank. Others disagreed. His aggressive leadership style clashed with the board. They said he was reckless, too ambitious, too demanding. In 2000, while Elon was away on his honeymoon, the board staged a coup. He was ousted as CEO of the very company he had poured his fortune and soul into. For many entrepreneurs, that kind of betrayal would have been devastating. Elon was furious, heartbroken, humiliated, but he didn't walk away. Instead, he remained the company's largest shareholder, watching from the sidelines as PayPal skyrocketed. By 2002, PayPal had become a global giant in online payments. That year, eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion. Elon Musk's share brought him $180 million. He was just 31 years old. Twice in less than a decade, Musk had gone from broke to millionaire to ousted CEO to multimillionaire again. But here's the twist. This wasn't the end of the story. This was the setup for his boldest move yet. Most entrepreneurs would have stopped there. $180 million was enough to retire 10 lifetimes over. But Musk wasn't interested in yachts or luxury islands. He wasn't chasing comfort. He was chasing destiny. Behind closed doors, Musk had already been sketching his next vision: to break humanity's dependence on fossil fuels, to make electric cars mainstream, to build rockets that could take humans to Mars. Friends and critics alike thought he was insane. The money from PayPal, they said, should be invested safely, or at least used to build something guaranteed to succeed. Instead, Musk was preparing to risk every dollar he had on ventures most believed were impossible. The world saw a young multimillionaire, but Elon Musk saw something far greater: the chance to reshape humanity's future. And so, with $180 million in his pocket, Elon Musk stood at a crossroads. One path led to security, wealth, and an easy life. The other path led to unimaginable risk, ridicule, and the possibility of losing everything. Elon Musk chose the second path. This was not the end of his battles. It was the beginning of a war that would nearly bankrupt him, break him, and yet, ultimately, make him one of the most consequential figures of the 21st century. The stage was set. The fortune from PayPal was not his retirement. It was his fuel. Next stop, Tesla, SpaceX, and survival against impossible odds. Part 4. Fire and Steel, Tesla, SpaceX, and the brink of collapse. In 2002, Elon Musk stood at a crossroads. At just 31, he had $180 million from the PayPal sale. Most would have cashed out, bought islands, or retired into luxury. But Musk wasn't built for comfort. He wasn't chasing money, he was chasing history. He split his fortune like a gambler laying chips on the table. $100 million into rockets gives SpaceX. $70 million into electric cars gives Tesla. $10 million into solar energy gives SolarCity. That left him with nothing. It was an insane move. 3 industries notorious for chewing up dreamers: space, cars, and energy. But Musk believed humanity needed bold leaps: sustainable energy, electric transport, and a path to Mars. If no one else would do it, he would. The birth of SpaceX. In 2002, Musk founded SpaceX, Space Exploration Technologies Corp., in a rented warehouse in El Segundo, California. His mission: to slash the cost of space travel by building reusable rockets. The problem? Musk wasn't an aerospace engineer. He didn't even have experience in rocketry. Experts dismissed him as a rich software guy playing astronaut. NASA veterans laughed at the idea of a startup challenging Boeing and Lockheed Martin. But Musk was relentless. He hired brilliant engineers, learned rocket science from textbooks and mentors, and immersed himself in every technical detail. SpaceX designed its first rocket, the Falcon 1. The launches began in 2006, and they failed. Launch 1, 2006. The rocket lifted off and exploded 33 seconds later. Launch 2, 2007. It reached space, but failed before orbit. Launch 3, 2008. Another catastrophic failure. 3 rockets. 3 humiliating disasters. Each cost millions. Investors began to pull away. The media mocked him. Competitors smirked. Even his own engineers began to wonder if the dream was over. By 2008, Musk had sunk nearly all of his $100 million into SpaceX. Only one rocket remained. One chance left. If the fourth Falcon 1 launch failed, SpaceX would die. Tesla's electric storm at the same time, Musk was fighting a second war. In 2004, he invested $6.5 million into a small electric car startup called Tesla Motors. He wasn't the founder, but quickly became its chairman and its driving force. Tesla's mission was radical: build a sleek, high-performance electric sports car, the Tesla Roadster, that would prove EVs weren't just clunky golf carts. But building cars was brutally expensive. Manufacturing delays, exploding costs, and technical problems plagued the project. The Roadster was years late and wildly over budget. Critics ridiculed Tesla as a rich man's toy project. Major car makers scoffed. The oil industry smirked, and Musk, he was burning through tens of millions, fast. By 2008, Tesla was nearly bankrupt. Musk was paying employee salaries out of his own dwindling bank account. He was juggling lawsuits, investor backlash, and a vicious media storm branding him a fraud. To make matters worse, his personal life collapsed. His marriage with Justine Wilson unraveled, leading to a painful divorce splashed across tabloids. Musk's health was deteriorating. The stress was crushing. He later admitted, "I thought I was going to die." Literally. The perfect storm 2008 was Musk's darkest year. SpaceX had failed 3 launches. Tesla was on the verge of bankruptcy. The global financial crisis hit, drying up investment. Musk's personal life was in ruins. He was down to his last $40 million. Enough to save one company, SpaceX or Tesla. Not both. He faced an impossible choice. Most rational people would have picked one. Musk refused. He split the money between them, putting both on life support. It was the ultimate gamble. One last roll of the dice. The fourth launch, September 28, 2008. SpaceX prepared its fourth Falcon 1 launch. The pressure was unbearable. Years of work, hundreds of jobs, Musk's fortune, his reputation, everything rested on this rocket. If it failed, SpaceX would be finished. The engines roared. The rocket lifted off. Seconds passed. Minutes passed. Engineers held their breath. Then, success. Falcon 1 reached orbit. SpaceX had done it. The first privately funded company in history to launch a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. The room erupted in cheers. Musk cried. His dream was alive. Just weeks later, in December 2008, salvation arrived. NASA awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. Overnight, the company went from near death to a legitimate NASA partner. Tesla's lifeline, but Tesla was still bleeding out. Employees were laid off. Suppliers were threatening lawsuits. The Roadster was barely rolling off production lines. Musk admitted he was living off loans from friends. Then, another miracle. On Christmas Eve 2008, Tesla secured crucial funding from investors, including Daimler, Mercedes-Benz, keeping the company alive. Musk would later describe that Christmas is the moment when both Tesla and SpaceX were simultaneously saved from the edge of extinction. The aftermath: by 2009, both companies were still fragile, but alive. Musk had survived the impossible. Most people would have quit. Most would have folded under the pressure. Musk nearly broke, mentally, physically, financially, but he refused to stop. He had bet everything, risked everything, and somehow, through sheer grit, timing, and resilience, clawed both companies back from the abyss. The lesson was brutal but clear. Greatness is born in the fire of near collapse. Elon Musk wasn't just a millionaire anymore. He was now the man who had saved Tesla and SpaceX from death. And the world was about to start paying attention. Because the next decade wouldn't just bring survival, it would bring domination. Part 5. The Ascent. From survivor to global icon. The year was 2009. Elon Musk had just survived the most brutal chapter of his life. SpaceX had finally reached orbit on its 4th try, winning NASA's billion-dollar lifeline. Tesla had scraped together emergency funding on Christmas Eve, narrowly dodging bankruptcy. But Musk was not celebrating. He was exhausted, scarred, and still standing on shaky ground. The truth was, both companies were far from safe. Investors doubted Tesla. SpaceX was seen as a gamble. Musk himself was portrayed in the media as reckless, arrogant, and on the edge of collapse. Yet, deep down, Musk knew something most didn't. The storm had passed, and now the horizon was wide open. Tesla strikes back. Tesla's early Roadster proved electric cars could be fast, sleek, and desirable. But it was expensive, a niche product for wealthy early adopters. To make Tesla truly disruptive, Musk needed a mass-market car. The solution was the Model S, announced in 2009. The Model S was a full-sized luxury sedan, elegant, all-electric, and powerful. It was Musk's moonshot in the automotive world. Car critics scoffed. Traditional automakers dismissed Tesla as doomed. But when the Model S hit roads in 2012, everything changed. Range: over 300 miles on a single charge. Performance: 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds. Design: sleek, futuristic, packed with tech. It wasn't just an EV, it was a statement. The Model S stunned critics. In 2013, Motor Trend named it Car of the Year. Consumer Reports gave it a near-perfect score. Suddenly, Tesla wasn't a joke anymore. It was the future. Musk's gamble on electric cars had paid off, but this was only the beginning. Tesla rolled out superchargers to build a charging network, expanded into Europe and Asia, and unveiled ambitious plans for cheaper cars like the Model 3. Investors began to believe. Tesla's stock climbed, and Musk's reputation started to shift from reckless dreamer to visionary. SpaceX goes big. While Tesla was turning heads on the ground, SpaceX was making history in the skies. In 2010, SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket launched successfully, proving the company could scale up. In 2012, their Dragon spacecraft became the first private vehicle to deliver cargo to the International Space Station, something once reserved for superpowers, not startups. But Musk wanted more than just reaching orbit. His obsession was reusability. For decades, rockets had been disposable. Billions of dollars were burned with every launch. Musk's radical idea? Land the rockets back on Earth, ready to fly again. It sounded impossible. Engineers said it couldn't be done. But Musk pushed SpaceX to attempt it anyway. In 2015, the world watched as a Falcon 9 booster roared back through the atmosphere and landed upright on solid ground. It looked like science fiction. Suddenly, space travel had a future where costs could plummet, and colonizing Mars no longer seemed like a fantasy. The cult of Musk. As Tesla and SpaceX gained momentum, something unexpected happened. Musk himself became a global icon. He wasn't just a CEO, he was a symbol. People saw him as the real-life Tony Stark, the billionaire engineer working on rockets, electric cars, and solar power. He was bold, outspoken, and sometimes outrageous. On Twitter, he fired off jokes, rants, and announcements directly to millions. In interviews, he spoke casually about colonizing Mars and building brain-computer interfaces. He wasn't polished like other CEOs. He was raw, unpredictable, and fascinating. Supporters worshipped him. Critics despised him. But everyone paid attention. The solar revolution. Musk's third gamble, SolarCity, was also rising. Founded in 2006 by his cousins, with Musk as chairman, SolarCity became America's largest installer of solar panels. Musk envisioned a future where solar energy-powered homes, combined with Tesla's electric cars and batteries for storage. It was all part of his master plan. Sustainable energy for the entire planet. In 2016, Tesla acquired SolarCity, merging them into a clean energy powerhouse. Together, they unveiled the Powerwall battery and solar roof tiles, pushing closer to Musk's dream of energy independence. Triumph and turmoil. By the mid-2010s, Musk had achieved the impossible. Tesla was now the world's most valuable electric car company. SpaceX was landing rockets and winning billion-dollar contracts. SolarCity was shaping America's energy landscape. But success didn't erase the chaos. Tesla struggled with production hell during the Model 3 launch. Musk admitted he slept on the factory floor to solve bottlenecks. SpaceX rockets still exploded spectacularly at times. Musk's tweets often sparked lawsuits, SEC investigations, and wild stock swings. In 2018, he shocked the world by smoking cannabis on a podcast, sending Tesla stock tumbling. That same year, he tweeted he was considering taking Tesla private at $420, triggering an SEC crackdown. The world realized Musk wasn't invincible. He was brilliant but flawed, visionary but volatile. And maybe that was exactly what made him so fascinating. The legacy in motion. By the early 2020s, Musk's companies had transformed entire industries. Tesla became the world's most valuable automaker, worth more than Ford, Toyota, and GM combined. SpaceX built the Starlink satellite network, promising global internet access. The company also developed Starship, the largest rocket ever built, designed for Mars colonization. Musk launched Neuralink to connect brains to computers and the Boring Company to dig futuristic transport tunnels. From near bankruptcy in 2008 to becoming the richest man on Earth, Musk's journey was a rags to riches epic like no other. The man behind the myth. But behind the headlines, the essence of Musk's story isn't wealth, cars, or rockets. It's survival. He risked everything. He faced ridicule, lawsuits, failures, and bankruptcy. He lost marriages, endured depression, and worked himself to the brink of collapse. And yet he never stopped. Musk's story proves a brutal truth. Greatness demands sacrifice. Success isn't built on genius alone. It's built on scars, sleepless nights, and the willingness to keep going when the world says you're finished. From a bullied boy in Pretoria to the architect of Mars missions, Musk's story is one of the greatest rags to riches journeys of our time. The unfinished chapter. Elon Musk has wealth, power, and global influence. But his story isn't over. Will he lead humanity to Mars? Will Tesla dominate the auto industry forever? Or will his volatility bring it all crashing down? That is the suspense still unfolding. For now, one thing is undeniable. Elon Musk didn't just chase riches, he chased history. And he's not done writing it yet.
And that is the incredible journey of Elon Musk, from a curious boy in South Africa to one of the wealthiest visionaries on Earth. But now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Elon's rise to wealth was pure genius, or a mix of risk, timing, and luck? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every one. And if you enjoyed this rags to riches story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next inspiring journey. Until next time, keep dreaming big.